You are not bad with money because you don't know the secret investment strategy that rich people whisper about in private golf carts. You are bad with money because every tiny emergency knocks you off the road like your life is a shopping cart with one broken wheel. And the worst part? You've probably been lied to. You've been told the first big financial goal is buying a house, maxing out retirement accounts, starting a business, building passive income, learning options trading, or becoming one of those people who says, "My portfolio," in casual conversation like they're not dead inside. No. For most people, the first real money goal is way less glamorous. It is the first $5,000. Not $5 million, not $50,000. $5,000. And before someone starts foaming at the mouth in the comments saying, "Actually, $5,000 isn't enough in this economy," congratulations, detective. You solved inflation. We're all very proud. No, $5,000 is not enough to retire. It might not even cover 3 months of expenses if you live in a city where a studio apartment costs the same as a small aircraft. But that is not the point. The first $5,000 is not magic because of the number. It is magic because of what it does to your brain. Because right now, if you have $0 saved, your brain is not making decisions. It is panicking in a little financial hamster wheel. Every bill feels personal. Every car noise sounds like bankruptcy. Every dentist appointment feels like a hate crime. Your phone buzzes and you think, "Great, what fresh bill-shaped demon has arrived now?" That is not confidence. That is survival mode wearing jeans. And when you are in survival mode, you make terrible choices. Not because you're stupid, because your nervous system is screaming like a toddler in an airport. You take the bad job because you can't afford to wait. You keep the bad apartment because moving is expensive. You swipe the credit card because the dog got sick. You avoid checking your bank account because apparently if you don't look, the problem becomes legally invisible. Very mature. Very powerful. Very raccoon in a dumpster energy. This is why the first $5,000 matters. It gives you space. And space is what poor decisions are usually missing. Money is not just numbers on a screen. Money is options. When you have no savings, your options are basically panic, borrow, ignore, or sell something you still need. Amazing menu. Michelin-starred suffering. But when you have $5,000 sitting there, boringly, quietly, not trying to become a meme coin, something changes. You stop feeling like every problem is a cliff. A flat tire becomes annoying, not life-ending. A medical bill becomes frustrating, not catastrophic. A delayed paycheck becomes irritating, not time to eat cereal for dinner and pretend this is a lifestyle choice. That is the first change. Confidence. Not fake confidence. Not, "I watched one podcast and now I'm a CEO" confidence. Real confidence. The kind that comes from knowing you can take a hit and not immediately collapse like a folding chair at a family barbecue. Then comes the second change, risk tolerance. And this is where people get confused. They think risk tolerance means being brave enough to invest aggressively. No, risk tolerance is not bravery. Risk tolerance is math plus emotional stability. If you have zero saved, investing feels terrifying because you are not investing. You are gambling with your rent. You put $200 into the market, it drops 15%, and suddenly you're staring at your phone like the stock market personally broke into your kitchen and stole your lunch. Why? Because you needed that money. That money had a job. Its job was to keep your life from catching fire, and you sent it to the casino wearing a little retirement hat. That is not investing. That is financial improv. The first $5,000 changes that. Because now your emergency money and your growth money can stop being the same confused little pile. Think of it like building a house. Your emergency fund is the foundation. Investing is the second floor. And most people are out here trying to install a rooftop hot tub while the foundation is made of wet crackers. Then they act shocked when the whole thing collapses. Why didn't my wealth building journey work? Because your wealth building journey had the structural integrity of lasagna. You don't get to skip the boring part. You don't get to choose the easy way out. You don't get to say, "I don't want an emergency fund. I want my money working for me." Your money is already working for you when it stops you from making dumb decisions. That is a job, a very important job. The first $5,000 is like hiring a tiny financial bodyguard. It stands between you and chaos. It says, no, we are not putting the car repair on a credit card at 28% interest. It says, no, we are not taking the first awful job offer just because rent is breathing down our neck. It says, no, we are not selling investments during a market dip because the water heater exploded. That little pile of money protects your future money. This is the part nobody wants to hear. Emergency savings are not separate from investing. They're what make investing possible. Because the real danger in investing is not just the market going down. The real danger is you being forced to sell when the market is down because life punched you in the face. And life loves doing that. Life has incredible timing. Your car will not break down when you have extra cash. No. Your car waits until your rent is due, your phone bill hits, your cousin is getting married, and your fridge starts making a sound like an injured robot. Then it says, surprise, transmission. That is why the first $5,000 matters. It keeps temporary problems from becoming permanent financial damage. Now let's talk about decision making, because this is the most underrated part. When you have a small base of money, you become a different person. Not because you suddenly become smarter, but because you stop being cornered. A cornered person makes cornered decisions. They say yes when they should negotiate. They tolerate nonsense because they can't afford friction. They stay silent because rocking the boat might cost money. $5,000 does not make you rich, but it can make you harder to push around. And that matters. It gives you enough breathing room to pause, to think, to compare options, to say, no, that fee is ridiculous. To say, no, I'm not buying this just because I'm stressed. To say, no, I don't need to impress people who are also broke but louder. That last one could save entire civilizations. Because most people do not go broke from one giant villain purchase. They go broke from 1,000 tiny leaks. Subscriptions they forgot. Takeout because they're tired. Impulse buys because life feels sad. Upgrades because their ego saw someone on Instagram pretending not to lease a car. And every time they almost get ahead, some little emergency drags them back like a crab in a bucket. That is the core problem. People quit right before the base starts working. They save $800, feel proud, then life happens. They use it. Then they say, see, saving doesn't work. No, saving worked perfectly. That was the entire point. Your emergency fund was not ruined because you used it for an emergency. That's like saying your umbrella failed because it got wet. That's the job, genius. The problem is you didn't rebuild it. Most people treat savings like a finish line. It is not a finish line. It is a muscle. You build it, life uses it, you build it again. Annoying? Yes. Unfair? Often. Still necessary? Absolutely. The first $5,000 is built through repetition, not inspiration. Nobody wants to hear that because repetition is boring. We want hacks. We want secret tricks. We want one weird rich person habit that turns $37 and a dream into generational wealth. But the real answer is painfully unsexy. Spend less than you make. Separate your emergency money. Automate the savings. Avoid high-interest debt like it is a raccoon with a knife. Invest only after your basic stability is not held together with tape and vibes. That's it. Simple, not easy. Simple means the steps are clear. Easy means your feelings cooperate. And your feelings are usually drunk toddlers with internet access. So do not wait until you feel ready. You will not feel ready. Start ugly. Start small. Start with $20 if that is what you have. Then $50. Then $100. Then one boring automatic transfer at a time. The goal is not to become a finance robot who meal preps lentils in silence and judges people at brunch. The goal is to build a base so your life stops being one surprise bill away from emotional collapse. And once that first $5,000 is there, then yes, investing starts to feel different. You are not throwing money into the market hoping it saves you by Friday. You are building. You can think longer. You can handle dips. You can make decisions from patience instead of panic. And that is where wealth actually begins. Not with a stock tip. Not with a side hustle that requires you to become your own marketing department at midnight. Not with pretending every coffee is the reason you are not a millionaire. Wealth begins when you stop being financially fragile. The first $5,000 is not the whole game. It is the part of the game that lets you keep playing. So no, I do not have a secret investment app that will turn your spare change into a private island. I do not have a magic budget that makes rent stop being rude. And I definitely do not have a course called Become Rich While Sleeping, because apparently sleep now needs a monetization strategy too. What I do have is the next step. Build your first financial base, protect it, and stop letting small emergencies bully your entire life. So save the first $5,000, then rebuild it when life attacks. Then invest from strength, not desperation. And if that sounds boring, good. Boring is where the money is. Exciting is usually where the fees are.